Hello, my friends. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of AMX Kids. So, AMX Kids, what are we doing? What is it? AMX, my show, AMX, is where I read books and talk about them, but they're grown up books. So, AMX Kids is reading kids' books, extracting the life lessons from those kids' books, and then talking about them and then teaching them so that you can talk about them with your parents, or you can talk about them with your friends, or you can talk about them with your coaches, or with whomever you would like, or you can just ponder them. You can just think about them because I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to tell you a secret. That is the secret. That the secrets are buried within books like this one, Where the Red Fern Grows. That's what I'm telling you. Does it take time to read a book and take notes and think it out? Yeah, it takes time, but I'm telling you that the return on that time is extremely worth it. Absolutely extremely worth it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go into the show. And if you're not already subscribed, if you have if you listen to podcasts, if you're a parent and you listen to podcasts, especially kids, if you just want to watch on YouTube, so be it. But search out the Spaniard Show on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. Every AMX Kids will be sent to you on Tuesdays. Every AMX episode, which is just 8 minutes. 8 minutes every single day, Monday through Friday, where I read books and I teach what I learn. That's it, folks. That's it. It's simple. It's to the point. Let's rock and roll with today's AMX Kids 20, reading the book Where the Red Fern Grows. And this is my third week reading and studying the book Where the Red Fern Grows. So tune in. Let's get rocking and rolling. 1, 2, 3. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Spaniard Show. This is another week of AMX Kids. This is AMX Kids 20, reading, studying the book Where the Red Fern Grows. Recording this live on YouTube, youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard. So kids, if you want to watch as well as listen, you can go to youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard. And again, I'm diving into these books. I was just telling YouTube the secret, the gold. There is gold in these books, Where the Red Fern Grows. We're going to pick up today. We're going to cover 3 points today. First point we're going to cover today is the deeper meaning of education. So you go to school. And if you're anything like me, when I was in junior high school, when I was in elementary school, and you know what? I liked school, actually. So even if you like school, sometimes you can think, why am I here? Why am I reading this book? Trust me, when I read these books, or I at least looked like I was reading these books when I was a kid, I didn't fully get it. And now that I'm reading these books as a grown-up, as an old 37-year-old, with some white hair sprouting out here and there, I'm thinking, wow, there's so much gold. So today we're going to talk about the deeper meaning of education. We're also going to talk about the importance of your word, right? My word is my bond. Your word is your bond. The importance of your word and accountability. And then lastly, we're going to talk about determination. What it means to have determination, and what is bulldoged determination. Let's dive into the first point here. So our main character, Billy Coleman. Sorry, I have a little bit extra energy today. Our main character, Billy Coleman. At one point, he lives in the outskirts of town. He lives in the country, in the mountains, in the Ozarks, right? And he had to go into town. And so Billy was telling his dad about being exposed to people in town. So Billy is like me. I grew up out of town. I grew up in the country. I grew up in the sticks, central western Pennsylvania. And I like it in the country. I like it in the sticks. So Billy has grown up on the outskirts of town in the mountains, and he always thought about wanting to move in town. But he had this experience where he went into town and he had a bad experience. Okay, so he goes into town, he's looking to buy some dogs. He wants to buy some dogs, and he goes into town, he has a terrible experience. The kids bust on him, make fun of him for being an out-of-towner, how he's dressed. It just was not a good situation. It was a terrible experience. So then Billy's talking to his parents later on, and he says something to the effect of, I don't want to move in town anymore. I want to stay out here. I don't want to move in town anymore. And his mom and dad get into this deeper discussion about education. Okay, so think about education. When I say that word education, generally we just kind of associate the word school with education. You know, education, that's school. Wah, wah, wah. I want summertime, no school, no books, freedom. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to learn. But there's this thing about education, lifelong learning, continuous education. And his mom and dad have this great discussion. So Billy says to his mom, to his dad, quote, "Hasn't mama taught us how to read and write?" So he was homeschooled. So he never had to go in town to go to a public school. And his dad's saying, "Well, someday we may send you in town to go to school." And Billy says, "But hasn't mama taught us to read and write?" And his dad says this, and I want you to think about this, right? If you got to hit pause, and just think about, reason, rationalize, talk to someone, try to make sense of what this means. Papa says, quote, "There's more to an education than just reading and writing." So there's more to an education than just reading and writing. Lately on AMX, my grown-up show that I read grown-up books and I talk about them, I've been reading a lot about Mr. Rogers. And depending on how young you are, you might know who Daniel Tiger, right? Who Daniel Tiger is. Daniel Tiger. So Daniel Tiger is a spin-off of Mr. Rogers. So when I was a kid, and when even people older than me, when they were kids, there was a show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And the whole point of it was about education. The whole point of it was about continuous education and learning. But why? Because that is the end itself. This idea of lifelong learning, continuously growing, developing your emotional skills, your cognitive skills, your physical skills. It's this idea of doing that in the pursuit of that is really and truly I believe, one of the secrets in life. So when Papa says there's more to an education than just reading and writing, what does he mean? So learning, education isn't just books, isn't just history or math or learning another language. Education and learning is about learning how to live, essentially. It's about learning how to win. It's about learning how to lose. It's about learning how to fail. It's about learning how to have your heart broken, or learning how to get through sorrow or turmoil or stress. It's about learning how to help another person. It's about devoting yourself, learning how to devote yourself to something that's bigger than you. So all of these examples, winning, losing, failing, overcoming heartbreak or setbacks, trust me, I was a lifelong athlete, and I've been competing at a high level since I was a kid. And when you lose a match, I was a wrestler, when you lose a wrestling match, when you lose a state final wrestling match, or a wrestling match that to you is the Super Bowl of athletic competitions, that's tough. That's tough to deal with. That's not an easy thing to get through. I used to be a Spanish teacher. And I'm guessing if any of you listen to or take Spanish in school and are watching this right now, I'm guessing that maybe 1% of you that are listening and or take Spanish like Spanish. There are very few. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of kids that have taken Spanish when I was in high school, I was probably the only one that actually absolutely loves it, the only one that takes it with me. And then I became a Spanish teacher. And I used to tell the kids, I taught in a middle school, I taught in a junior high school, and I used to tell the kids, the students, I used to say, look, I'm a teacher of life with a specialty in Spanish, because I very, very, very much believe in align with this idea that there's more to an education than just reading and writing, that there's this idea of overcoming these obstacles and challenges that we're talking about. And it brings me back to one of the previous books I read on AMXKids, The Outsiders. The author of The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, wrote the book because she was a 15-year-old kid who needed to figure out a way to deal with the obstacles and challenges in her life. And that is the seed, that's the secret, that's the foundation, that's the reasoning. I want you to believe in this idea of continuous learning, of lifelong learning, of reading books. A book like Where the Red Fern Grows. It's about a boy who wants dogs and works really, really, really hard to buy these dogs. And then he develops a relationship with these dogs. And then he learns about life and about himself by way of training and being and experiencing things with these dogs. That's life. So when Papa says there's more to education than just reading and writing, that's exactly what we're talking about. So trust me, I know. I'm around enough young people to understand you just want to be on your phone. I know. But I'm telling you with my guarantee of all guarantees that there's value and power in reading books. So however you have to do it, whether it's just 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, Google something, search something that you're interested in, and buy a book about that thing. Get started reading. So as I was talking about Billy, so he had to work really, really hard, right? And that drives home one of the important themes of today, the idea of persistence. Persistence is sticking to a goal no matter what. So I have a goal of building a show, the Spaniard Show, that celebrates learning, that celebrates the idea of reading books and asking questions. I had goals of winning state titles or world championships in mixed martial arts. So I had all these goals, right? And it requires persistence. Seeing something in the distance, saying, I'm going to get there, and not stopping until you get there. That's the idea of persistence. So our main character, Billy, he works extremely hard to get his pups, right? But he realizes, so he has this goal. I want to buy dogs. I want some hounds. I want to hunt raccoons with my dogs. And then he works so hard and overcomes so much to get these dogs. But then he realizes, oh, it's not over. It's just starting. That this whole goal that I saw off in the distance is here, now, in front of me. And the obstacles and challenges, my troubles still aren't over. Billy says this, quote, "It seems that the worries and wants of a young boy never cease. The worries and wants of a young boy never cease." Now, I'm sure your parents have told you this. I'm sure your teachers have told you this. I'm sure you've heard this from other people, but I want to say it to you one more time, because the truth is, you'll hear a lot of things over and over and over again. But sometimes it just takes one person to say it in one specific way that all of a sudden it's, aha, that now makes sense. So I'm going to say this in the hopes that it makes sense. So Billy tells us it seems that the worries and wants of a young boy never cease. He had this bulldog determination to get what he wanted. So here's a couple ideas that I want to send your way to kind of touch on or add a little bit to this idea of it's never over. It's never over. You're never going to get to a place that you think is the place, and then it's just done, that all the hard work will stop, that all the challenges will stop, that it'll only be sunshine and rainbows. It's just not that way. So here's a couple ideas that will help you see beyond that. The first one is this idea of playing the long game. Play the long game. That means that you're in it. That means you're in it for the long haul. That means that we're not running sprints here. And when I say running sprints here, I'm speaking metaphorically in the idea of life. Okay, while we're here, while we're experiencing life, we're not running a sprint where we're just going to get to the end and stop. No, we're running a marathon. We're running an ultra marathon. We're running a never-ending race. This idea of playing the long game, cementing in your mind the idea of persistence. The idea of bulldog and determination, that you will not stop, that you will keep going, that we are in it for the long haul. We are playing the long game. Another idea is that the grass is greener. The grass is always greener on the other side. What does that mean? That means that I'm sitting here right now as the Spaniard recording this in my home quote studio, my rough studio. Don't tell anyone, but I'm actually sitting at my kitchen table. So the grass is greener on the other side. That will be like saying, oh, well, that podcaster over there, or that YouTube guy over there, or that person over there, they have it much better than me because they have X, Y, and Z. And for that reason, they have no worries. It's simply not true. That whenever you get to any next point, or you take on the perspective of somebody else, or you see things from other people's point of view, you realize that the grass is not always greener on the other side. That people don't always have it made. That they aren't so lucky. We all have our ups and we all have our downs and we all have our obstacles and challenges. So don't think that it's always the grass is always greener on the other side, because it's simply not true. Here's a mantra. Here's another idea. Here's a mantra I want you to stick in your head. So a mantra is kind of like a saying that you might repeat to yourself over and over and over. So if you can imagine a time of stress, if you're experiencing a time of stress and you need something positive to say in your mind, just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. The race is not always to the swift, but to those who keep on running. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the gift of not giving up, of simply just keeping going. And then lastly, I want to squash any idea of, quote, making it. Because if you think, like I said before, if you think this idea that you get to this place where you just get to sit and do nothing, it simply doesn't exist, because the world is always changing. The world is always evolving. People and things are always changing and improving, or changing trajectories, et cetera, et cetera. So there's never going to be a point. If you have these goals and aspirations, so if you're watching AMX Kids or you're listening to AMX Kids and you have these goals and aspirations, You understand what I'm saying? So in those goals and aspirations, understand that there will not come a time where you can just sit and stop. It's about lifelong learning. It's about continuous growth. It's about always committing to that idea of I will keep going and I will keep learning and I will keep doing. So the last thing I want to talk about here is the importance of your word. And this brings up a greater point, which is that of accountability. So Billy traps his first raccoon, and he has this super difficult task of getting to the raccoon. It's this incredibly difficult scenario in which he finds himself. And so his dad says to him, so his dad sees him, and he says, wow, Billy, this is like a really tough situation you're dealing with here. How about this? How about we just let that raccoon go and then go somewhere else and find another raccoon? So his dad suggests leaving it and just going off to find another one. But Billy, now mind you, Billy is young, right? Billy is a middle schooler. Billy is not a grown man, right? He's becoming a man. He's transitioning from this little boy to this young man of responsibility. And Billy says to his dad, quote, I made a bargain with my dogs. I told them that if they would put one in a tree, they'd put a raccoon in a tree, I'd do the rest. Now it's up to me to do my part. If I don't, my dogs will never believe in me again. So Billy understands this idea of, wait, Dad, I can't just leave it up there. It would be easier to leave it up in this big giant tree and not have to do all this work to get it down from the tree. But that wouldn't be right, because I told my dogs is that they were able to get me a raccoon in a tree, then I would do the rest. Then I would get that raccoon. And if I leave now, if I see this adversity, if I see this obstacle or challenge, and I leave now, what's that going to tell my dogs? Then my dogs are never going to believe me again. That's your word. Think of that. That's your word. That means that if you tell your friend you're going to do something and you don't do it, what's going to happen the next time you tell your friend you're going to do something? They're going to think, is Spaniard really going to do that? Because he said that last time, but he didn't do it for me. So I don't really know if I believe him. And if you keep going in that direction, then your word becomes non-valuable. Your word carries no value with it. His dad then says, quote, if a man's word isn't any good, he's no good himself. This idea of saying what you mean and meaning what you say, this idea of not saying something if you don't intend to do it, not only does that increase or improve your relationships with other people, but it also improves your relationship with yourself. What in the heck does that mean, Spaniard? It improves your relationship with yourself. That if you find yourself feeling bad about yourself, if you find yourself always doubting yourself or telling yourself negative things about yourself, think of this. Every time that you say something to someone that you're going to do and you do it, that's a boost in the right direction. That's a positive boost. That's a, yeah, I did it, Spaniard. Or yes, Spaniard, you did it. And every time you don't do that, it moves in the other direction. So not only when you keep your word with other people, do you build a rapport or a stronger relationship or help another person, but you're also improving the relationship that you have with yourself. You're also improving the way you feel about yourself, because then you start to think of yourself as someone who keeps their word, someone who follows through on what they say, someone who helps other people. So please grasp that idea of a man's word, a woman's word, a boy's word, a girl's word being one of the most important things that you can have and that you can do is to keep your word. And that builds on the greater idea of accountability, ownership, owning your words, owning your actions in school, outside of school, wherever you're at. This has been AMX Kids 20, studying the book Where the Red Fern Grows. Absolutely tremendous book. And you get this book as well as every other book. I have kids books, I have grown-ups books on my website. I made it a big list, charliespaniard.com/reading list. New AMX Kids episodes come out every Tuesday. AMX episodes come out every Monday through Friday. It's the same format. I'm reading books, I'm talking about them, short, concise, to the point, full of valuable information. All I want is for you to want to read a book. That's all I want. I want for you to want to read a book. I put them all on my website at Charlie Spaniard on social media, charliespaniard.com. Let's do it, folks. Let's read a book. I'll see you next week for AMX Kids 21. There we have it, my friends. So thanks for tuning in. AMX Kids 21 will be next Tuesday. Subscribe, iTunes, podcast app, The Spaniard Show. That's it, my friends. See ya. Maybe, if I can find the see ya button.